Here we go. We're going to talk about Last Ship, Season 5, Episode 5. I've not always been the biggest fan of Last Ship because I don't enjoy the American propaganda that this show is meant to promote. That being said, this is probably the best episode of Last Ship ever, and that's because it dealt with the psychology of going to war and its long-reaching effects upon warriors. This is something that hasn't really been touched. I guess basically the idea being that the crew of the Nathan James never has had any time to deal with the things that they have seen. Uh, it's been 3 months since Alicia's killed, so the Nathan James is in dry dock, which means that the soldiers for the very first time are sitting, and they have some things that they need to figure out. Okay, so it's a juxtaposition to them and how they are as warriors. One of the things that made this episode really great is we get to see Tom and the crew. They're in a bunker in Jamaica and have completed their mission to extract a high-value target named Montano. The problem is they're trapped. Jamaica is about to be overrun, and they need to extricate themselves. Tom in this position is with it. He's not panicking, he's not nervous, he's in control, he knows who he is, he knows what the mission is, and he knows just what to do. This is a very different Tom than the Tom that sits down with his family at the dinner table. So much time has passed, but Tom is in complete denial that he's an absolute stranger to his children. I mean, how could he not be? He just sent them off to St. Louis, right? How could he know who they are? Has he actually spent any significant time with them in their lives to this point? You know, so what ensues is a battle in this bunker, and it's juxtaposed to this family dinner, which does not work out the way that Tom had planned. Tom, of course, had wanted a peaceful family dinner because his kids are going to be heading back to St. Louis soon, and Ashley has other ideas. It gets explosive, and this fight between Ashley and Tom is juxtaposed to the fight that goes on in the bunker. Tom and Ashley end up screaming at each other as they make their way around the house, and this is all blurred out. Like, you can tell that they're talking, but what you're actually hearing is the battle sounds from the bunker in Jamaica instead, as the camera goes back and forth between the two scenes. Basically, the director is telling you that these two events are equal to each other, you know. And in the battle scene, Tom, of course, emerges victorious. He has his team around them. They're all competent. They all know what they're going to do. So yeah, of course, they manage to take out the enemy. And this is even after Miller makes the mistake with his pet mouse, Rhubarb. Another story. Anyway, in the battle of his family, Tom loses that. He loses that when his daughter makes it clear that her mother always knew he never wanted to be at home. And he barks back that he's sorry he's the one who survived. And she makes it absolutely clear that he is a stranger and he doesn't know them. And it all becomes too much for Tom, and he sits on the stairs, and his hands, his head sinks into his hands. Ashley has won this battle. Her father most certainly has not. Everything that Ashley said, every accusation Ashley made was absolutely true. And Tom could not only not deny it, he couldn't defend against it. And it clearly hurt him. The other side of, I guess, not domestic bliss would be Kara and Danny. I think these two have gotten a divorce. Kara is asking Danny to come and see his son, who he's only seen twice since he's home. If he has to visit his son, he's clearly not living with his son. And if he's not living with his son, that means he's not living with Kara. The fact that he won't take the opportunity to spend time with his child and is instead barking at the bit to get back into the action, acting like he's some kind of caged tiger, shows you the imbalance that is with Danny. right? What's he doing it all for? What's he fighting this fight for? If not to be able to have those moments with his son, to catch a ball, right? To go for an ice cream, any of these things which are normal. He can't even take the brief opportunity to do that because he's fixated on going back to war. So much so that when he does finally get around to taking Frankie to the playground, he brings his big boa knife. I think that's what they're called. And, just as expected, Frankie ends up grabbing the knife, forcing Danny to grab his hand really quickly and take the knife away from his son. Now, I know this was meant to be a moment where you're saying Daddy could have been more gentle, and this is the effect of his warrior mentality. But any parent who sees their kid with a knife that sharp is going to react that quickly and that harshly. That just is. Later, Danny and Frankie, we see them and they're carving some kind of wooden soldier, and Danny's telling his son that, later on when you grow up, you can have a knife like this and you can use the knife for that. And it's sort of a nice family moment, and for once we see Danny in the moment. The other thing is the War Bonds fundraiser held by a Southern women's group in a plantation. Like, it doesn't get any grosser than that. It was like some weird sort of playback to the Civil War, but within modern dress. And they were talking about sweet tea and our boys, and just, it was a little nauseating. And I really liked that the black characters were like, where are we again? And acting like this was the Twilight Zone, because really, it is the Twilight Zone. There they are calling these black naval men our boys, right? It just feels weird, and I'm glad that they acknowledged that this was well and truly a weird thing. What did come out of that, though, was Carlton Burke. Burke had a chance to speak to some retired soldiers. Burke started talking about how his father was in Vietnam and how his father never wanted to talk about his experience and how he just got up and paced the house at night. And basically, it comes down to, you can't tell anybody anything because they won't really understand unless they were there. And just, I guess this is the bonds of brotherhood, the bonds that are forged in war, and that's why they have to be there for each other. That's why they have to be each other's comfort, because nobody they tell is going to understand what they've been through. And it makes sense. It's why maybe they're having so much trouble relating in their real life, sitting down, making small talk, over a chicken breast is just awkward and bizarre to them. Anyway, all of this is just building up to the fact that they are going to have some emotional issues that they're going to have to deal with. We saw it play out again with Montana telling Tom that he looked haunted and very different than the way he looked the last time they met, and telling Tom that he hopes that whatever is chasing him never catches him. So I guess we're looking for a dark, emotional day for Tom. We'll see where this goes. They keep hinting at it and hinting at it and hinting at it. We'll see if the last ship actually goes there and tells the truth. Soldiers who go to war don't come back to war necessarily whole, and it's the mental injuries that the military has historically denied. So doing it with Tom, who's such a major character, I think is important. As far as the war goes, it looks like everything is pretty much status quo. President Reese says the country is united in a way they haven't been since World War II. It's pretty much stalemate. No one's winning, no one's losing. Tavos, however, now has Jamaica and apparently the world's good rum. So we'll see where this takes us in the next episode.